Moving on to the next session, we have with us today Professor Ashish Pandey, who is a distinguished academician and thought leader in the field of management, leadership, and organizational development. Currently serving as professor at the Shailesh Mehta School of Management, IIT Bombay. He holds a PhD in organizational development and human resource management from the Management Development Institute, MDI, and his academic and professional projects have equipped him with expertise in data analysis, strategy, and innovation. His core area of research lies in the applications of Indian wisdom traditions to management and leadership, and has significantly contributed to this emerging domain through numerous papers, books, and courses. Over his career spanning more than 14 years in management education, research, and consulting, Professor Pandey has developed and taught courses on Indian management philosophy, ethics, and spirituality for MBA and PhD students. A warm welcome to you, Professor Ashish Ji. Over to you, Ashish Ji.
Thank you very much, Bhagyaji, for and all the and the uh, SCSS for organizing this event, and my privilege to interact with the colleagues over here. I will be sharing few thoughts about some of the fundamental aspects of the management, and this I would like to situate in a bigger question of Viksit Bharat. We all are aspired to see our country in our own lifetime, fully developed country, a developed nation. And inspired with that, we uh, uh, we need to think what kind of management will be adopted in the of the business organizations or other organizations in India. And when we ask this question, the next natural question is: will Vikasit Bharat be like developed America or China or any part of Europe? I'm sure that there is a lot to learn from all these countries. But when we say, when we ask this question about the Viksit Bharat, how the Viksit Bharat will look like, it is like asking question how a Viksit lotus will look like, how fully bloomed lotus will look like. It will look like lotus. It will not look like marigold. A lotus, by copying marigold, cannot be a fully bloomed lotus. So we need to look at how the developed nation, when Bharat becomes the developed nation, how it will look like. And another criteria, so arising from, so why we need to look at, why we need to compare the Vikasit Bharat with the developed USA or developed China. Because when asked from the Indian perspective, what is the Vikasit Bharat? What is the ideal society? Our first criteria for ideal society is that whole world should be able to follow that. So I am not denigrating the great work people have done to build United States of America or China or for that matter any country. But we need to think that the characteristics which are being demonstrated by these countries, are these the characteristics which whole society, whole world can adopt as a country, as a society? Can we follow the consumerism as the foundation for economic development eternally? Can we have a one child kind of policy, generation after generation, no cousins, no uncle, no aunts? We do not know. And suddenly, so we need to look at what are the Indian perspective. And if India has to develop as a Viksit Bharat, it has to demonstrate those characters which can be followed by the whole world. So let us look at the current assumptions about in the field of management, and then uh, I would like to uh, examine whether there is something like Indian management be helpful for us. This is a much required job because for many years we are following the uh, dispersion model. Before explaining the dispersion model, I would like to show this quote. Once upon a time, we were in possession of such a thing as our own mind in India. It was living, it thought, it felt, it expressed itself, but it has been thrust aside, and we are made to tread the mill of passing examinations not for learning anything, but for notifying that we are qualified for employment under organizations conducted in English. Our educated community is not a cultured community, but a community of qualified candidates. Whose code this might be? I'll give a few seconds to guess this. Who would have said this? And this this is said by none other than Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore. And what he said at that time is not totally different from what condition we see today. It has been such that such a situation in the field of management, and for that matter, most of the fields of social sciences, as well as I think that science and technology, that there is a dispersion model of knowledge. There is a center, eco center, where the all, which is kind of a legitimization authority. They legitimize few things, and the things which are not in not legitimized or not approved, they are not accepted by other parts in the periphery. So there is a center and periphery. West is at the center. We are at the periphery in the knowledge field. And if we say something, or if anybody says something at the periphery, it is not valid, it is not accepted by the other points in the periphery until it is validated by the center. This is the dispersion model. But if we look at the field of management, which primarily comes from the field of economics and business, and if we look at the basic assumptions behind it, we need to rethink about creating a new model. So if we look at the basic assumptions of the economics, which is the mother, you can say the mothership for the field of management, it operates on the basic assumption about the limited resources. Resources are limited. So there has to be competition. The famous statement of Malthus that uh, uh, the table of the nature, uh, the lunch on the table of the nature is not free. Whereas, so the resources are limited. There has to be competition for the resources. And more we exercise power over nature, more are the chances of us winning and growing and becoming powerful. And in that journey, the individual rationality is the instrument. How we do that? The individual rationality becomes the major instrument for the in this process. And the objective is to create surplus and surplus maximization. When we maximize the surplus, we can invest more in other fields. We can invest more in more businesses. And the cycle goes on, as if growth is limitless, as if the business systems just keep on growing all the time. Nothing in the nature, nothing in this universe just keeps on growing all the time. If we look at the Indian perspective, we say that there are 6 stages any entity goes through. Janma se, from Janma to Nashyati, these are the 6 stage every entity in the world has to go through. Whereas in the current business models and the current business theories, there is no conscious thinking about the end of the cycle. It is operating as if the growth is limitless and it will always be on. Whereas the Indian model will say that external resources will always be limited and desires will always be unlimited. It doesn't start with the limited resources. It starts with recognizing that desires are unlimited. So desires which are arising from man, and because human beings are capable of exercising their desire, they are called manushya. That which arises, that which gives birth, that which chooses its action based on mana. That's why it is called manushya. The manushya has unlimited desire. It doesn't start with the limit external, it starts with internal. Since we have unlimited desire, when one can have unlimited desire, the purpose of education and the humanity, the crux of the humanity, crux of being human, which has vivek. That's why it is different from pashu. Pashu is the one which is entangled with the pash, which is bound by nature, which is bound by tendency. Whereas Manushya has to indulge in Purusharth. So, starting of our life is not to outside in, it starts with the inside out. Since there are unlimited desires, the role of policy and role of education is to make those desire according to dharma. That is the ultimate, that is the most important element of the education and education of humanity, and the essence of sanskar and the development lies in the basic as effort that desires of the human being should be according to dharma. तभी वो मनुष्य है, otherwise वो पशु है. And so dharma became dharma became the guiding principle, and then comes artha. Kama is also recognized, and that has to be connected with moksha, because anything in this world, anything in this nature evolves, that has to go through the end. It has to dissolve. So absorption and dissolve both are the part of the design. That's why dharma, along with earth and calm, there is a dharma which controls the desires, which regulates the desire to to keep it functional for the individual human being and for the world, and that and the life goes to the moksha. When we assume this Indian worldview, then our connection with nature changes. Our connection is not of the consumer with the of the planet or the exploitator of the planet. We look at nature and this earth as Mata, Mata Bhumi Putroham Prithivya. That is the natural outcome when desires become earth and calm is governed by dharma. That's why it is called Manushya and Mata. And when we have this conceptualization of the relationship, which is of the mother and child, then what is the instrument through which we can govern the interaction? Instrument is not only the pure rationality. Instrument is the pragya, the practical wisdom. And the outcome of this is not surplus maximization, but wellness maximization. Sarve vai sukhina santu, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma pashyantu bhadet. That is the outcome. That is the ultimate objective of the business. So it is assumed that economic growth is unlimited in the modern management or economic thought. The Indian thought will emphasize on limitlessness of the consciousness, not the limitlessness of the physical prosperity or economic system. It recognizes, Indian system recognizes that consciousness is unlimited. Though it is captured in the human life, that's why it is called Vyakti. Vyakti is the one which is expressed. So that ultimate consciousness is expressed in a unique way. That's why we call it Vyakti. But that consciousness which is encapsulated in the Panchakoshas, there are 5 layers of the or the koshas in which the ultimate consciousness is encapsulated, has a natural tendency, natural urge to experience, natural urge to attain that limitlessness. And limitless is not the consumption. That's why the limitless is the consciousness which we all want to experience. And arising from that, whatever business comes, that can be whatever the vyapar comes, that can be in the form of business, that can be in the form of craft, that can be in the form of trade. All those craft, business, trade, all this, all will be very different. That will be more responsible towards the environment. That will be more concern for the holistic development of the human being, overall well-being of the human being. Overall well-being will not only include the physical aspect, emotional aspect, but that will include the social and spiritual aspects. So what kind of organizations we need to create which uh, which follows these principles? These are the fundamental principles of management derived from the Indian perspective. We need to create organizations on these lines. That's why social business is going to be the ultimate business model of the future. We need to think about it because India matters not only for the economic and political reasons, because of its wisdom tradition, worldviews, ideals of the human life, its diversity, its propensity to embrace the tradition and contemporary at the same time, and its unique challenges. If new business models have to come, it is the India from where the new, very different kind of business models can arise because of all these factors. So we need to create business theories and business models which are based on these basic assumptions. Researchers have to develop new concepts, and business leaders need to create new businesses in order to realize this possibility. We need to, as a researcher, we need to identify the new business and new concepts, because these concepts will tell us the real understanding, which will give us the real understanding about the business, real understanding about the life. For that, we need to dig our own language, our own shastras. All the languages are the storehouse of knowledge, and Bharat has so many languages. We need to develop new constructs and new ideas. Beyond the profitability, we need to look at Shubh Labh. Beyond the business, we need to look at Mahajan. Beyond operational excellence, we need to look at the seva and kaushalya, which is not only efficiency, but kaushalya is in line with the, which is in the harmony, that skill which is in the harmony with the social and natural environment. So we need to develop these concepts, and then there are so many organizations already working based on many of these assumptions. We have examples of Mool, we have examples of even the Zoho Corporation in the current times. We have examples of uh, many social entrepreneurs which are working in the field of education, health, agriculture. They are not contributing to the degradation, economic and social degradation of the planet, but they are contributing to the sustainable development. So the future of the business model in India is is not only business for the surplus maximization. The management model of India are closer to what we call the social entrepreneurship, which are addressing the social divide, which are addressing the problems, which are addressing the issues of the environmental degradation, which are making life meaningful for the people who are working for those organizations. There are great crises this planet is going through, and business world has contributed in enhancing those crises, in building those crises. Business world is not only responsible, but business is certainly one of the responsible parties. And and if some change has to happen, business has to pitch in. We can take just three examples. Look at the environmental degradation. The carrying capacity of earth is already surpassed. It is 1.5. That means the that means the the byproduct, the waste being created in the production activity is so much that we need 1.5 times of the earth to process that waste. So we have already surpassed that limit. That's a huge ecological divide we have created on our planet. And this 1.5 earth carrying capacity is just a average, because if we look at average consumption of the American, whole world, if we start consuming equivalent to the average American, we will need 7 earths to dispose of the waste and the process that waste being created in the process. So we cannot afford this whole world to become America like. In India, the earth carrying capacity, if we look at the average consumption, it is close to 1, but India has huge socio-economic divide. So the rich Indians are consuming at the rate of the American consumers, but Indian poors are consuming less, and that's why that divide, the environmental divide, we are contributing less. We need to develop the business models which address the economic divide without polluting the environment. We need to develop the Indian models, which we need to develop the Indian organizations which address the societal needs, which address the divide, but they create the workplace which people find meaningful to work at. So, uh, uh, coming back, so to summarize this idea that we are working in a field where business model and the whole theory is based on some very problematic assumptions. First of all, we need to understand the problems in those assumptions, which are based on limitless growth, limited resources, uh, competition being the end thing, winning over nature instead of winning, working with nature has been accepted as the way of life, profit and surplus maximization has become the objective of the world, of business world. These are fundamentally flawed assumptions. They are contributing to the socio-economic divide, natural divide, and making the work meaningless for the people who are working with those organizations. So we need to come back to this. We need to address these basic assumptions. Work with the assumptions which are sustainable, which whole world can operate upon. These are the notion of purusharth, pursuing earth and calm within the light of dharma, and not letting the moksha out of sight. When we discard the divinity and divine nature and sacredness of life, we lose all the responsible behavior. Because when we say materialism is the ultimate thing, why people will do ceiling on desire? Why people will doing conscious consumption? Why people be responsible for the planet? Until we see ourselves part of it, until we see ourselves responsible for it, until people realize that it is only one integral consciousness which is manifested in the different forms of the nature, why we will they will even yearn, even think about, even aspire to experience the oneness. After experiencing the oneness, even with the glimpse of the self transcendence, we have seen in our research, in so many research studies, even little glimpse of the egolessness and self transcendence make people more responsible, make people life more flourishing, make enhance the psychological capital, it enhances the responsible decision making, it enhances the win-win approach in the conflict situation. In last 7 years, we have conducted so many experiments to see even one experience of little experience of the self transcendence. Thus, do people become more settled? Do people become more responsible? Do they develop more compassion? We have found that even little bit of the contemplation, even little bit of the breathing exercises, yoga, and some process through which they experience the glimpse of the self transcendence, they become better decision makers. They become high on the psychological capital. Their life are more flourishing. They are able to find meaning and purpose. They have a more positive relationship. There are so many outcomes with the simple interventions. So it indicates that for to operate on these assumptions, the guidelines like SDG 70, these goals, these are the objectives, these are not inspiring factors. We need to focus on the embodied knowledge, experience of the oneness. That's why I'm so glad that this talk is happening in the during the Navaratri, because this is the occasion to experience that glimpse of oneness, which is the ultimate reality of life. With sadhana, why we do the Navaratri sadhana, or for that matter, any sadhana? Because that help us to break the boundaries of avidya little bit so that we can experience that oneness, the integral consciousness, little bit in the date in our life. If we experience that, we can choose the different ways of doing things and engaging with the world. So uh, this is the kind of Indian model. Some organizations have started working on that. Many organizations, and not that all the it is only in Bharat where there are organizations which are operating on the different model, which is which I am presenting as an Indian model, because it is arising from the Indian wisdom. Indian wisdom holds that dearly in its basic tenets and basic assumptions. So I am saying that that is not only that is certainly Indian conceptualization, but these models are available in the world elsewhere as well. So if you want to know more about it, you can go to the website aim2flourish.com. In the aim2flourish.com, you will see 2000 plus case studies of the organizations which are not working against nature, which are contributing positively to the sustainable development goals by their business model itself. By their business model itself, they are reducing the inequality, making the work meaningful, and addressing the environmental degradation. So, uh, I need to close this session because in my institute there is another activity planned on this Navaratri occasion. There is a Yogastha club, very thriving Yogastha club in IIT Bombay. About 1,500 to 2,000 members are there. Happens to be part of that club. We keep organizing these spiritual yoga based, wisdom based events. Today there is a great event which is the combination of yoga and the natya and the sangeet. So being the faculty, one of the faculty in charges of the Yogastha club, I need to kind of take care of that. But uh, that has also been a very good experience of starting the Yogastha club. We have seen there is a significant improvement in the well-being of people who are following these practices. In the every International Yoga Day, about 250 people perform the 108 Surya Namaskar, which suggests that, which reflects the enthusiasm of the towards the yoga on the campus. So, if in IITs yoga can be integrated in the MBA class, the self-awareness based courses and the meditation and mindfulness based courses can be added. I'm sure many other places can be integrated. So that's what we have been doing in last 7 8 years. I've published the research showing the positive impact of those things, and all this is based on the Indian model. So thanks very much. If there is some time, if you have some questions, I will be willing to take few questions in few minutes.
Thank you so much, Ashish ji. I would like to ask Mr. Rupashri. She has raised her hand. If she has any question, uh, I will allow you to talk. Just a minute, Rupashri ji. You can unmute yourself and ask the question, please. Ms. Rupashri, are you there?
Yeah.
That might be by mistake.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Please ask the question.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, just a generic question to sir. Nowadays, many people speak about AI and the advancements of AI. So, what is sir's opinion related to AI and its integration to IKS?
AI do not give anything different from what human beings have already done. It increases the speed of that processing. It do not create of something of its own, and uh, human beings will always be ahead of what AI can provide, because they give the instruction, they give the combination, so on and so forth. The current AI models are based on the existing database available to us. In the IKS, actually, we have created a website, dharmawiki.org, which generate the IKS based wiki knowledge in the wiki form. But the currently prominent ChatGPT and all that, these models do not have enough IKS based sources. So AI has to be there, means it is going to be there. It is our responsibility to digitize lot of Indian knowledge system and train our own LLM models on those data sets. There are some sincere effort happening. Even in my institute, the sincere effort is happening. Bharat Gen, that is the name of the company, which is working the LLM, the models based on the Indian data. But we need to have the Indian content in the digital form available. We need to train the large language models on that data set, and then probably we can have better output on the IKS.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Satvik has another question. How to compare modern management with traditional business practices aligned with SDGs?
So
Sustain.
this slide is very much a reflection of that. It says that we need to look at business model and sustainability not as an outside in. It should be inside out. That is the basic fundamental difference. So sustainability can happen only by the people who have some glimpse of the oneness, compassion, who have the reverence for the nature. Then only we can have the policies which otherwise the policy may be incomplete or they may be eyewash. For to prevent that, we need to have not only sustainable models, but we need to have people who have lived some of those values and experiential foundation of which is required for truly sustainable life.
We'll take one last question, Ashish ji. How circular economy helps for sustainable development in future? That's what Mr. Gautam is asking.
Circular economy is the closest to Indian model of management. We have to strengthen it seriously. We need to follow it seriously. Uh, if you look at circularity, was very much part of the Indian way of living. Uh, uh, the way we take the natural resources with the reverence is the starting point. The way we prepare things is the medium, is somewhere in the medium. And when certain things, even when there is a process of how to even process the waste food. It is not thrown out. It is used in some way or other. Either it is given or it is uh, 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 kind of mixed with the soil or something like that. So if you look at how what is our tendency to look at, what is our tendency to utilize certain things, utilize all the things. In fact, circularity is very much part of it. And it is it is it is inevitable that if sustainability has to come in the practice, circular economy and the practices arising from that has to be followed, and that is very much in line with the Indian culture and Indian wisdom tradition.
Thank you, Ashish ji. On behalf of Center for Education, Social Studies and ICAI Business School, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to you for joining us today and giving us this excellent lecture. I hope all the participants enjoyed this lecture and we'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock on the same platform. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ashish. Namaste.
Dhanyavad.
Thank
Namaste.
you all. Dhanyavad. Have a nice evening.
आपको भी.